Hey, it's Patricia Murphy. It's Wednesday, and this is Seattle Now. AMC Theaters said yesterday that it plans to re-release 42, the 2013 American biographical sports film about baseball legend Jackie Robinson. The re-release is in homage to the late actor Chadwick Boseman, who portrayed Robinson. In a minute, we'll talk with Eula Scott Bynoe, co-host of Everything's on Fire with Eula and Jeannie, about how Boseman's recent death is landing for her. But first, let's get you caught up. Seattle's new police chief starts work today, and he's already making changes. Yesterday, interim chief Adrian Diaz announced he'll reassign 100 patrol officers and supervisors to SPD's 911 response unit. Diaz says it's in response to Seattleites who say they want more face time with officers and for them to show up faster in an emergency. Meanwhile, the King County Sheriff is expected to address serious gaps in the internal investigation into the 2017 death of Tommy Lay. A sheriff's deputy shot Lay in the back after 911 callers said Lay possibly was armed with a knife. It was a pen. An independent report by the King County's Office of Law Enforcement Oversight says investigators waited 5 months before interviewing the deputy who shot Lay. And as Seattle has grown, so has traffic to its surrounding natural beauty. Now, Mount Rainier National Park is exploring ways to cut down on that crowding. It's just too popular for its own good, which has caused hour-long waits to get into the park. Don't worry, aspiring mountain climbers, the park still wants you to come, but they want to hear your ideas for solutions to the congestion. Rangers are asking for public input. You can chime in until October 10th. People around the world are grieving the loss of actor Chadwick Boseman, who died last week. He's most famous for playing T'Challa or Black Panther in 2018.
I am not king of all people. I am king of Wakanda. And it is my responsibility to make sure our people are safe and that vibranium does not fall into the hands of a person like you.
Eula Scott Bynoe, a former colleague and a friend, is someone who feels this loss deeply, especially because she's been going through her own loss. She talked to me about what his life and legacy means to her. Eula, thank you. So good to have your light.
I'm happy to be here. Everything is on fire.
One of the reasons we're talking. So we're here to talk about Chadwick Boseman, and I know he was important to you, but I wonder what your reaction was when you heard that he had died.
Oh, I stopped everything in my tracks to see if it was true. I went to Google to confirm it just because it seemed impossible for a 43-year-old who I thought was healthy this whole time person to just up and go. And I feel like I couldn't process in the moment because I was amongst people, which is funny during a pandemic because it's I was at home.
Okay. But
I have a friend who's homeschooling and really struggling with his son. And so I was like, I can try to be more helpful. And, you don't see no people in COVID. You're hell excited to sit with an 11-year-old for half an hour.
Sure.
But then later in the night, when I had a chance to really think about it, I just fell apart. I cried about it. I really loved him.
Yeah.
I just do. He was so valuable. He is so valuable.
I remember you at KUOW when Black Panther came out and you came in dressed in a costume. And Eula, this is just Eula to me, but that was a very meaningful thing to you. This was a meaningful movie to you.
Oh, it was huge. Black Panther, I've been into the comic book for as long as I can remember because as a Black person, it's the only one to be into, right? It's the only one where
Sure.
We're really seeing him with all of our regality. Yeah, but also he's a king. He's not just a fighter or someone who's had a bad break in life. The Black Panther has been around from, generations and generations. And when that movie came out, knowing that I was going to see strong Black women, strong Black men, none of them light-skinned or whitewashed to the point of my appearance, in a film that gave them, I don't know how much money Marvel can afford to throw at projects, but more than I will ever get thrown at my Black body. Knowing that it was going to be just a powerhouse, man.
Yeah.
And so with Hella Black, Hella Seattle, we did a screening.
This is your podcast.
And it sold out. And it sold out immediately, Trish. 100 people filled the seats within seconds.
Yeah.
And it was so cool to know that despite Seattle's, great displacement, we were able to figure out a way for people to come together and really have a good time. And there were multiple Black screenings, which is really cool.
The other thing that struck me about this was the fact that he was able to keep this secret about his cancer, right?
Amazing.
Because Hollywood is a place where secrets only get kept for good reasons. Or, I think in his case, maybe with a super strong chosen environment, people that he associated with who kept this secret. I don't know the truth, but to me, this was striking that he was able to keep this secret for so long.
I hope and I pray that the people closest to him held him so closely in it that, it didn't feel like it was a secret. It felt like it was something that they were facing, but they were moving through, And it wasn't ours to know, really.
Right. And of course, if people had known, it would have defined the rest of his career. And that choice feels intentional, right? This may have been the intent.
And he wouldn't have done these movies.
Right.
We have an image of health in our minds and an image of what's appropriate when we're healthy and when we're not, that people wouldn't have let him to continue to create because they would have held him into a spot of a sick person. Colon cancer is really, really, really hard to beat. And we all would have just ridden it off.
He played living heroes like James Brown and Jackie Robinson, and superheroes, of course, Black Panther. I love the idea that he loved to look into the dark parts of his characters' lives, that he really fully looked into, like in the Black Panther, the origin story, but in other characters, their entire story became part of what he brought to those roles. And I wonder what that says about him.
Well, I think it's so funny to play like Jackie Robinson and James Brown. Like what extreme juxtapose of people, right? Like they, as much as they are both Black men, right? Like that, I think often we think they're all the same thing. They're not, right? Jackie Robinson is a guy who felt so purposeful in every single game that he was willing to take all the crap from all the people. Like we deal with racism now where we're like, oh my God, I can't believe I heard somebody say all lives matter. You know what I mean? Jackie Robinson was going into like stadiums of those people, stadiums of those people and their experiences. But then, on the other hand, it's like there's James Brown, who is just a firecracker of a personality. It's just amazing, that kind of a craft. He was just so talented. Yeah. And I know that some people never saw Marshall who saw Black Panther, but maybe we'll feel driven to it now because Thurgood's story is amazing. I mean, a child who was told as early on as he could that to create change, you must know laws. And then he went and he memorized the fuck out of these laws, man, like to the point where he was able to become the first Black Supreme Court justice and then left because it was terrible.
Yeah. Eula, we are living in such a state right now. We're just coming apart at the seams, and I feel like we're grieving on a daily basis. We find, there are new reasons to feel loss every day. And I wonder if grieving someone like Chadwick Boseman, who's a very public person, who is beloved, gives us a safe space to put a lot of the grief that we have been feeling and to live in a space where we can feel the things that may not be obvious in our grief.
Oh, absolutely. With my husband's passing in March, I started this year pretty much with grief weighing so heavy. I lost my dad when I was 18 and my mom passed just last month. And so I've had, grief really weighing on me, and Chadwick's feels personal. I mean, I've been telling people it feels like I've laughed with him and now he's not here to enjoy it anymore. And I am really beyond grateful for the imagery of Black Panther. The scene where he goes to the other side and he sits under that tree with his ancestors. I truly believe that that's where we are off to next. And so I'm grateful that I know that that's where he's at and where he's resting. And I'm grateful that my family is there too. Honestly, the funny thing about grief is that it just don't go away. No. And that when you see it, you just have to meet it. It's like the postman, right? He comes every day, and sometimes he makes deliveries without you noticing, and other times you bump into him and you want to make sure you speak. But no matter what, he's there every single day on arrival,
Yeah.
Ideally. And Yeah. And I think the weird thing about, or I think it's not weird at all. I think the thing with Chadwick is it is a collective grief. I don't know what it was like when Princess Diana died, but I imagine it's a similar feeling. And I personally lit a candle for him. I've been speaking to my ancestors about him more so because I know he's busy with his own people. But I'm really taking advantage of it as if it is my grief to hold because of how much I know I loved him.
Eula, what is Chadwick Boseman's legacy? What do you think? What do you take away?
Oh, I think his legacy is the ability to hone a craft to the degree that no one can deny it from you. The way he's been able to hold his roles and act in such regard makes it so that there's not a single person upon his passing that could say a bad thing about his craft. Maybe some girl used to date him could say something bad about something. But if he's as sweet as like the kids from the South are, I highly doubt it. I'm sure he calls every woman ma'am and miss, you know?
Eula Scott Bynoe, the co-host of Everything's on Fire with Eula and Jeannie. Thank you. So good to talk to you.
Thank you, Trish. This is beautiful.
Hi, I'm Patricia Murphy, host of Seattle Now. Thank you for watching. If you think this work is important and want to support us, subscribe to our channel, leave us a comment, and check out KUOW.org for local news.